Welcome back to Chronicles of the Realm. Today is part 2 of the Obsidian Fortress. Hope you enjoy the story. Last time you were here, the party had just come together, met each other, had a strategy session, trying to figure out what they were going to do. Now they have a plan of action. They've had an evening of rest and are now heading out to find the Obsidian Fortress. Will they all return? Will they all survive? Stay tuned to find out. The story begins now.
Arms, and may you return to us victorious. We will, Aldrich said. The Dawn Lord does not abandon those who fight in his name. Crag snorted, but nothing. They set out, leaving the town behind, following the road that led north into the mountains. Kale took point, his ranger's eyes reading the landscape, while Lyra ranged ahead, scouting. Aldrich and Thorgrim walked together, the paladin and the cleric finding common ground in their faith. Morrigan walked alone, her staff clicking against the frozen ground, while Crag brought up the rear, his massive form a deterrent to anything that might think about following. The first day was uneventful, almost pleasant. The road was clear, the weather held, and they made good time. They didn't talk much, still feeling each other out, still uncertain, but there was a rhythm to it, a pattern emerging. Kale would signal a halt, and they'd stop. Lyra would report what she'd seen ahead, and they'd adjust their route. When Morrigan stumbled on a patch of ice, Thorgrim was there to steady her, and when Aldrich's armor began to chafe, Crag wordlessly offered him a leather strap to pad the worst of it. Small things, but small things mattered. They made camp that first night in a sheltered hollow, out of the wind. Kale and Lyra worked together to set up a perimeter, placing small bells on tripwires that would alert them to anything approaching. Thorgrim cooked, surprisingly well, producing a stew from their rations that actually tasted like food rather than survival. Morrigan created a magical flame that burned without fuel, providing warmth without smoke. Aldrich and Crag took first watch, sitting on opposite sides of the camp, pointedly not speaking to each other. The second day was harder. The road gave way to a trail, and the trail gave way to raw mountain terrain. They climbed, their breath coming hard in the thin air, their muscles burning. The temperature dropped, and the wind picked up, carrying snow that stung exposed skin like needles. It was late afternoon when Lyra, ranging ahead, froze. Her hand came up in the signal for danger, and the group immediately went still. She crept back to them, moving with the fluid grace of a hunting cat. "Tracks," she whispered. "Big ones. Fresh." "Yeti?" Kale asked. "No. Owlbear." Crag grinned, his hand going to his axe. "Good, I was getting bored." "We should avoid it if we can," Aldrich said. "We need to conserve our strength for the citadel." "Agreed," Thorgrim said. "No sense picking fights we don't have to." They tried to circle around, to give the owlbear's territory a wide berth. But the mountains had other ideas. The terrain forced them into a narrow defile, walls of stone rising on either side, and that's where the owlbear found them. It came from above, dropping from a ledge with a roar that shook snow from the rocks. 8 feet of muscle and fury, with the body of a bear and the head of an owl, its eyes huge and golden and filled with predatory intelligence. Its beak could shear through bone, and its claws were as long as daggers. Crag met it head-on, his war cry echoing off the stone as he swung his axe in a brutal arc. The blade bit deep into the owlbear's shoulder, and blood sprayed across the snow, hot and red and steaming. The creature screamed, a sound that was part shriek and part roar, and backhanded Crag with enough force to send him flying. Aldrich was already moving, his sword blazing with holy light as he drove it into the owlbear's flank. The creature turned on him, its beak snapping, and only his shield saved him from having his head torn off. Thorgrim's warhammer crashed into the owlbear's leg, and there was a wet crack of breaking bone. Morrigan's hands wove patterns in the air, and lightning arced from her fingertips, striking the owlbear in the chest. The smell of burning fur filled the defile. Kale's arrows found the creature's eyes, one after another, and it thrashed blindly, its roars becoming screams of pain and rage. Lyra darted in, her daggers finding the soft spots between ribs, the vulnerable places where arteries ran close to the surface. She moved like water, like shadow, always just out of reach of those terrible claws. The fight lasted less than a minute, but it felt like hours. When the owlbear finally fell, its blood pooling in the snow, they stood gasping, their hearts hammering, adrenaline singing through their veins. "Everyone alive?" Thorgrim asked, already moving to check for injuries. Crag had a gash across his chest, deep enough to be serious. Aldrich's shield arm was badly bruised, possibly fractured. Morrigan had twisted her ankle, dodging a claw swipe. Minor wounds, all things considered, but enough to slow them down. Thorgrim's hands glowed with golden light as he channeled the Stone Father's healing power. The gash on Crag's chest closed, leaving only a pink scar. Aldrich's arm straightened, the bone knitting. Morrigan's ankle stopped swelling. "Thank you," Aldrich said quietly. Thorgrim nodded. "That's what I'm here for." They made camp early that night, all of them exhausted from the fight and the healing. As they sat around Morrigan's magical fire, eating dried meat and hard bread, the mood was different. They'd fought together now. They'd bled together. It changed things. "You're fast," Crag said to Lyra, and there was respect in his voice. "Faster than anything I've seen." Van licked. "You're strong. That first hit would have killed most things." "The paladin's not bad either, for a human in a tin can." Aldrich looked surprised, then pleased. "You fight well yourself for an—" he caught himself. "For a warrior. You can say it. For an orc." Crag's grin was sharp. "I know what I am, paladin. Don't need you to pretty it up." "I meant no offense." "None taken. Just don't expect me to start praying to your sun god." "I wouldn't dream of it." It was a small moment, but it mattered. The ice was breaking, slowly, between them. The third day brought them into the high peaks, where the air was thin and cold enough to burn the lungs. They climbed in silence, saving their breath, their world reduced to the next handhold, the next footfall. The trail, such as it was, wound along the edge of a cliff, with a drop of hundreds of feet to one side and sheer rock to the other. It was Kale who spotted the cave, a dark opening in the cliff face, partially hidden by an overhang. "We should check it," he said. "Could be shelter if the weather turns." They approached cautiously, weapons ready. The cave was deep, extending back into the mountain, and as they moved inside, out of the wind, they saw signs of habitation. Bones, picked clean. Scratches on the walls. And in the back, curled in a nest of stolen furs and cloth, a young dragon. It was white as fresh snow, no bigger than a horse, with scales that gleamed like ice in the dim light. One of its wings was bent at an unnatural angle, clearly broken, and there were wounds along its flanks, claw marks, deep and infected. "Gods!" Thorgrim breathed. "It's just a wyrmling." The dragon's eyes opened, brilliant blue filled with pain and fear. It hissed, a weak sound, and tried to rise, but the broken wing made it stumble. "Easy," Lyra said softly, moving forward with her hands spread. "Easy. We're not going to hurt you." "Lyra! Wait!" Kale started, but it was too late. The roar came from the cave entrance, a sound like an avalanche given voice. They turned to see a white dragon filling the opening, easily 30 feet long, her scales gleaming like polished marble, her eyes blazing with maternal fury. "Get away from my child." The voice was in their heads, bypassing their ears entirely, and it carried the weight of ancient power, of magic older than kingdoms. "We mean no harm," Aldrich shouted, raising his hands. "We were just—" The dragon's breath weapon cut him off, a blast of freezing air and ice crystals that would have killed them all if Morrigan hadn't reacted instantly, throwing up a shield of shimmering force. The ice shattered against it, and the cave filled with frozen shrapnel. "Run!" Kale shouted, and they ran. They burst from the cave into the open air, and the dragon followed, her wings spreading wide, blotting out the sky. She was magnificent and terrible, a force of nature given form, and she was absolutely going to kill them. Aldrich's sword blazed with holy light as he stood his ground. "In the name of the Dawn Lord, I—" The dragon's tail whipped around and sent him flying. He hit the cliff face hard enough to crack stone and slid to the ground, his armor dented, blood running from his nose. Crag charged, roaring, his axe raised. The dragon caught him in her jaws and shook him like a dog with a rat. Only his armor saved him from being bitten in half, but when she threw him aside, he didn't get up. Thorgrim was chanting, his warhammer glowing, calling on the Stone Father's power. The dragon's claw came down, and only Morrigan's hastily cast shield saved him from being crushed. The shield shattered, and the backlash sent the mage to her knees, blood running from her nose. Kale's arrows bounced off the dragon's scales like twigs. Lyra's daggers couldn't even scratch them. They were outmatched, outpowered, and they were going to die. "Stop!" Lyra's voice cut through the chaos, high and clear and desperate. "Stop! Your child is hurt! Let us help!" The dragon paused, her jaws open, frost gathering for another killing breath. "What?" "Your wormling! It's injured! Broken wing! Infected wounds!" Lyra pointed back at the cave. "We have a healer! A cleric! He can help!" The dragon's eyes narrowed. Why would you help? Because it's the right thing to do. Thorgrim stepped forward, his armor dented, his face bloody, but his voice steady. Because a child in pain deserves healing, regardless of what kind of child it is. Because that's what my God teaches, and what I believe. The dragon stared at him for a long moment. Then, slowly, she lowered her head. If you are lying, if you harm my child, I will make your deaths last for days. Understood, Thorgrim said. They went back into the cave, the dragon following, her bulk barely fitting through the entrance. The wormling whimpered as they approached, and the dragon made a sound that was almost a croon, almost a song. It's all right, little one. These creatures are going to help. Thorgrim knelt beside the wormling, his hands already glowing with healing light. This is going to hurt, he said gently, but it will help. I promise. He set the broken wing first, and the wormling's scream of pain echoed through the cave. The dragon tensed, frost gathering in her throat, but Thorgrim didn't stop. He channeled power into the wounds, burning away infection, knitting torn flesh. It took everything he had, every ounce of divine energy he could call upon, and when he was done, he collapsed, gasping. But the wormling's wing was straight. The wounds were closed. It stood, shakily, and spread its wings, both of them, and made a sound of pure joy. The dragon's eyes, when she looked at Thorgrim, were no longer filled with fury. You have my thanks, little healer, and my debt. Astrea of the northern peaks does not forget those who aid her children. No debt necessary, Thorgrim said, though he was too exhausted to stand, just doing what's right. Nevertheless, the dragon's gaze swept over all of them. You travel to the Obsidian Citadel. I can feel it, the wrongness that emanates from that place. It woke something that should have stayed sleeping. You know about it?
I am old, Ranger. I remember when that fortress was built, when the cult performed their dark rituals. I remember when the dwarves sealed it away, and I remember the demon they imprisoned there. If it has woken...
We're going to stop it, whatever it takes.
Brave words. Foolish, but brave. The demon is ancient and powerful. It will not die easily. And the Yeti it controls are only the beginning. As it grows stronger, it will reach further, corrupt more.
Then we better hurry.
Indeed. I cannot help you directly. My child needs me, and I will not leave it again. But I can give you this. My blessing. It will protect you from the worst of the cold, and from ice-based attacks. It is not much, but it is what I can offer.
It's more than enough. Thank you.
Do not thank me yet. You still have to survive. The path ahead is dark. Not all of you will return. But perhaps some will. And that will have to be enough.
Well, that was interesting.
Interesting? We almost died.
But we didn't. And we made an ally. The Dawn Lord works in mysterious ways.
Pretty sure that was just luck.
Call it what you will. We're alive. And we're stronger for it.
They made camp in the lee of a boulder, too tired to go further. As they sat around the fire, eating and tending their wounds, there was a new ease between them. They'd faced death together, twice now, and survived. They were starting to trust each other, starting to work as a unit, rather than 6 individuals. Tomorrow we reach the Widow's Bridge, Kale said, studying his map by firelight. After that, it's a straight shot to the citadel. The bridge, Lyra said quietly. Grimshaw said it was dangerous. Everything about this is dangerous, Crag pointed out. What's one more hazard? He's right, Thorgrim said. We've come this far. We'll make it the rest of the way. Your optimism is noted, Morgan said, and appreciated, even if I don't share it. They settled in for the night, taking watches in pairs. Lyra and Kale took the first, sitting in comfortable silence, watching the stars wheel overhead. Morrigan and Thorgrim took the second, the mage and the cleric finding common ground in their different approaches to power. Aldrich and Crag took the last watch, and by the time dawn came, they were actually talking. Not friendly, exactly, but no longer hostile. Progress. Small, but real. The fourth day brought them to the Widow's Bridge.
And there you have it. Part 2 of the Obsidian Fortress. The party fought owlbears. They befriended a dragon, saved a wormling. And now, will they make it to the fortress? Will they survive the fortress? Come back next week for episode 3. Until then, have a great week.